Hello everyone, this is Leslie Pelch at the Vermont Center for Geographic Information. Welcome to our webinar today about posting data to the Vermont Open Geodata Portal. We're going to go through the steps involved in posting data, and we're going to use Regional Planning Commission's posting municipal zoning data as our example. I'm going to pretend to be a Regional Planning Commission. And we are not going to go through the steps involved in setting up an ArcGIS Online Account, and that is an essential step to this process. So I'm assuming that you've already done that by the time you come to watch this webinar and learn about the steps to actually post your data. So we're going to start by actually going to our Open Geodata Portal, which you can get to from this link right here on the front page of our website. You can also just type in geodata.vermont.gov, and you will come here. Up at the top of the page, you can click on Help to go to the bottom of the page where the Publisher's Guide is linked from. And when you open that up, you will find why ArcGIS is opening up. You will find that it has step-by-step instructions for posting data at our portal, or rather posting data at your ArcGIS Online account, which you can then make available to the portal. So there are a few different options that are covered in the first few pages of the guide. We're going to do one particular option, which is posting data to an ArcGIS Online account and then making it available as a hosted service. And so the first thing that we're going to start working on is actually the account settings in the ArcGIS Online account. Note that some of the stuff that is covered up here is preparing your data ahead of time. If your data is subject to a data standard, you want to make sure it meets that standard first, and then also you want to deal with your metadata. And you'll see that there's a metadata standard as well that you'll want to consult before you sit down to actually make the data available for sharing. So we're going to start with account settings at our ArcGIS Online account, and I have logged into the VCGI ArcGIS Online account. It takes me initially to this organization page, and from here I'm going to click on Edit Settings. I'll just show you that indeed these are the steps we're going to go through here. Sign into your account, go to My Organization Settings, and we're going to change some of the item details in this section. So we're going to click on Edit Settings, and the very first thing is Item Details. Most important thing here is clicking to enable metadata for your organization and also to set that metadata format or style to North American Profile of ISO 19115-2003. We are then going to go to the so roles may be relevant in your organization. If you have an enterprise account and you actually have multiple people accessing your account with different roles, and you want them to have different levels of access to various tasks and power to change things, you may want to think that through ahead of time and set up separate roles and maybe have one of those roles, as you see here, Open Data VCGI role. You might want only one role to actually deal with open data. If you're the only person accessing your account, you don't really have to worry about roles. The next thing is security. And most important thing here is in the searching and sharing section, we want to make sure that members can share content publicly. In the open data section, you'll see that this is really a toggle, this button right here. Since we already have open data enabled, the toggle says disable open data. If you didn't already have that set and you were to go in here, you'd see that it will say enable open data. So the key is that you want it to enable open data. If it says disable, then you're in the right right place, because that means you've already enabled it. Okay, so that's all we need to do in the settings area. We are now going to go up to groups right up here at the top. We've done some organization stuff. We're going to go to groups. And you can see again that VCGI already has some groups. Indeed, we have a test open data group. I'm going to delete that so I can create it again. In order to create a new group, so we're creating a group that is going to be what we put out there to the portal. So this group is going to be what all of the data layers we want to share are connected to. And it's the group that you're going to tell VCGI about, and then VCGI is going to say, yes, include this group in our portal. And at that moment, any data layers connected to it will be exposed through the portal. So we're going to create this open data group. Give it a name like open data. In my case, I'm going to do test open data, so I remember that it's just a temporary thing. And you might want to add a tag like open data in your tags. You want to make sure who can view this group needs to be everyone, the public. Again, you can't share the data associated with it publicly unless you have that appropriately checked. Who can join the group can be whoever is invited. Let's see, contribute, group members. And then the final thing is that down at the bottom of this list, we need to make sure that this is designated as available for use in open data sites. As you can imagine, this is pretty key to having this group serve that function of connecting to an open data site. Okay, we are now going to move on to, we set our settings, we're now going to move on to how we actually go about putting some data on our ArcGIS Online account and making it available. So I'm going to go back to the Publisher's Guide. We've gone through this initial section of account settings. We've created an open data group. Just pause there for a second. We gave it a name, a little description, some tags. Don't really need to worry about a thumbnail, but you can upload one if you'd like. We made sure to set our status so that users can search for and find the group. It's available for open data sites, and members can upload stuff. Okay, so now we are going to actually add a data item to our account that we're going to make available for open data. So we're going to go up to content. Oops, actually, hold on, I think I didn't save this yet. Final step, create group. Okay, that seems to have worked despite the error message. All right, let's go back to content. So there's our group. We're going to go to content in order to upload some data. I'm just going to delete the data I've previously uploaded. Okay, so in order to add data, we're going to click on Add Item up here in the upper left corner of the content area. Notice that there are three options: from my computer, from the web, or an application. In this case, we're just going to be uploading a shapefile, and so we're going to say from my computer. First thing I'm going to do is choose the data. Down to zoning. So here's our zipped shapefile. That's what we're going to upload. Content says shapefile. Yes, that's correct. That title's fine for now. And now we need to add tags, and because these tags are relevant to the data layer itself and they're actually going to be communicated through to the portal, these are actually really important, and this is where we have to start paying attention to our standard. We have a tagging standard that we're going to take a look at. Actually, let me show you where all our standards are. So here at the VCGI website, if we click on Resources and then Standards and Guidelines, we will get to our standards. There are a bunch of them, but we're going to look at 3 in particular that are relevant to posting data. One is the Metadata standard. The other 2 are actually under Vermont Open Geodata Portal standards. One is the ArcGIS Online Configuration standard, and the second one is the Tagging standard. So let's take a look at the Tagging standard. So you can see that the tag types are listed here on the left. The next column tells us whether it's required or not. And you'll actually see in the guide that it repeats some of this information about what's actually required and the general format. But you'll get a little more detail in the tagging standard and some examples. So ISO theme and sub-theme are both required. Node and keyword are also required, and note that node is basically who the publisher is of the data. Keyword is going to be whatever keyword you choose, but you do have to include at least one keyword. And then below that, the tag types go into more conditional or optional tags. If we scroll down a little bit farther, we'll start to see the actual values that are valid for some of these keywords. So for instance, the ISO themes, which are really just categories of data, you'll see a list of acceptable values. Same thing under sub-themes. Depending on the theme, it will give you a list of acceptable values. So and then a little bit farther down, we get to nodes, which again are publishers. And you can see that we have a list of acronyms for various organizations, including the regional planning commissions. I'm going to be pretending to be Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission today, so I'm going to use CCRPC. For this zoning data, our ISO theme is going to be boundary. And as you can see here, if ISO theme tag equals boundary, our sub-theme options are county, region, state, town, tile. If we go on to the next page, other. Since the zoning data is not county, region, state, town, or tiled in some other way, it is other. So even though this is town-based data, it's not town boundary data, so it's other. Is our sub-theme, and then, as I said, node will be CCRPC. And for keyword, I'm probably just going to use zoning. So let's go back in here and actually put those in. So ISO theme boundary, and notice that I am following the style exactly in terms of capitalization. Sub-theme other, node, CCRPC, and then zoning. Just check something about my format. Keyword. Yeah. Okay. So there are my keywords. I hit enter to get those in there, and then I can add my item. Now it's going to just take a second to upload it and publish it. And then we go to our item details page. And we're going to fill in a few more things here before we're done. Okay. So you can see that we need to add a summary, a description. This is actually going to create a default thumbnail in a minute, but we're going to replace that. Let me just go back to the publisher's guide so you can see. So we are now going to populate our item details, a little more detail, a little more item details, and some other items like metadata. So as you can see, we've already dealt with tags. And we're actually going to wait a second on the description because we're going to upload our metadata. So there's our default thumbnail. There's a couple different options around metadata. So let's click on that button and see what they are. You'll notice that this is an interactive form that allows us to fill in information about our data layer just by typing and then clicking on a different section and saying, yes, I want to add that in. And it'll give you lots and lots of places to enter stuff in. And this is a great way to add the metadata if you do not already have metadata in some other format. And we'll see in a second that you can upload data, and I'm going to show you. I'll upload some metadata, but this system is a little bit limited in terms of what format that can be in. So you can do it if you have it in the proper format. Otherwise, you're probably better off just typing it in here interactively. Let's go briefly to the metadata standard to take a look at what it says. So the key thing in our metadata standards is the definition of the ISO core metadata elements. These 12 or so, I believe there are 12 elements, are required to be included in order to post data at the portal. So you'll want to review this ahead of time, take a look at these, make sure you have information for each of these about your data layer, and then you can interactively kind of figure out where they go in this form and put it into this form. Now, for the zoning data that I have, I actually did go through the exercise of creating some metadata within ArcGIS desktop, and so I'm going to try uploading that. The key here, in order to be able to do this, you have to have created an ArcGIS XML file, meaning within ArcGIS, or rather within Arc Catalog, you need to have created this metadata, and then it automatically creates the XML file for you. So if you have a shapefile that has this metadata file associated with it, as you'll see in a second, we'll find that file. If you've been using a geodatabase, also you can have your metadata as a part of that, and when you export the feature layers as shapefiles, which you need to do before uploading, you'll get that XML file, and it'll be the same metadata for each feature layer, which is fine. It doesn't need to be a separate, unique file. It can be the same file, a copy of the file. Populate metadata with, no, we're going to choose file. Yeah. Populate metadata with item details is going to help the metadata populate all of these fields. So we're going back to that folder where I had the data, and I've got an unzipped version of the shapefile here, as you can see, and included in that shapefile is indeed this XML document. So we're going to open that. So we're going to look at things like, so for instance, our fields and our attributes are now defined here because they were in the metadata. They this is now populated with information from that file, and we can see a little bit of information in here. Okay. Now that we're done with that, we're going to click Save and Close. And what else do we need to deal with? We dealt with our tags. I forgot to point out that notice that our summary and our description are now populated with a little bit of information. You can still edit these if you don't feel that's detailed enough. You can just click on Edit and edit or change or replace that, but it is now populated. We are also going to replace this thumbnail. So by default, it creates a little thumbnail. But if you're posting data to the portal, you actually need to use one of our prescribed thumbnails that we can create for you if you let us know that you would like to publish data. They follow a particular consistent format, and they indicate a few pieces of information. So let's take a look at those. So I just have the one that I need here, but we actually can generate thumbnails for all the different possible kinds of data applications and external links that you might need to include. So I'm just going to pick this one. Notice that it has the organization name, it indicates that this is data, and it indicates the ISO theme. And indeed, that's what we will see on the thumbnail. It's data, it fits within the boundaries ISO theme, and the organization that's publishing it is CCRPC, or Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. Okay, so we've got our thumbnail, we've got some description, we've got metadata. The final thing so I'm just skipping down to vector option 2. We're posting vector data, and we're posting it as a hosted feature service. And as I said, we uploaded our zip shapefile. We made sure it said publish this file as a hosted layer. We did this stuff. Oops. The one thing we seem to have left out of this. Where is that? Well, the final thing we need to do, I could have sworn it was on here, is click on the share button right here. We need to make sure this item is shared with the public. Now in my case, this, because I'm in the VCGI account, it's also automatically going to be available to everyone in my organizational account. But these groups, including my open data group, are also options. And so I'm going to obviously share this with my open data group. This is why I'm making the connection between the specific data layer and the open data group, and then the open data group is what you will actually expose to the portal. Okay, so I have now set all my settings. And let me just check my cheat sheet to make sure I haven't missed anything. I think that the sharing it with the portal is the last thing. Or I should say it's the second to last thing, because once you've done all of this, you now just need to communicate with VCGI to let us know that you have an open data group and that you have data associated with it. And once you do that, we go into the portal and we add you to our list of open data groups that are connected to the portal. And at that point, you actually start to see this data. And I'll just show you an example, because CCRPC actually did post some zoning data yesterday. Not sure why that map's not growing, but as you can see, here's the VT zoning Buell score. You can see that it's posted by CCRPC. The metadata is there. And there's the tabular data, the attribute table, and you can see it works. So I hope that this has answered most of your questions, gone through the steps necessary in order to post data at the portal. And remember that the final step is to let us know, and actually really the first step is to let us know you're interested in posting, and we can talk about whether it's appropriate, and if it is, then we will point you at all these documents and help you through the process if you need it. But most of the information is in the publisher's guide, and then our standards. Standards are all published on the website. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. My contact information is right over here, Leslie Pellich, on every page of our website. And I hope that this was useful and that you will let us know if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Have a great day.